So this is where a lot of people are very curious. Like, I love this work, but how do I get it out to the public? How do I get it to the masses? And the first question I want to ask everybody is, what was your biggest revelation in discovering how to build your audience? And I'm going to start down here with Ace.
Well, thanks for the bio was great. I don't know who wrote it, but it was real good. That was great. Yeah. I would say the biggest revelation I had is it's interesting. I tell this story all the time. My worst day at work was my best day for myself. I was working at Grandview Hospital. I used to be a nurse there, and that day I had got written up. I wasn't the best employee, if that makes sense. And so I remember going to Delish Cafe. I went and had a margarita and some tacos. And I remember walking down the street back to my car, and something told me to take out my phone and press record. And I pressed record on a message that I thought no one would pay attention to, as I always do. And the next day when I woke up, I woke up and that video had over 1 million views. And since that moment, my life has drastically changed. But the revelation I had in that moment was post, share, because you never know which piece of content, which part of your message or what art that you do may affect and reach other people, and what can be your catalyst to another opportunity in a different layer of your life. So that would be my revelation.
Thank you. Julie?
Thank you. I think my revelation came about 2 months after I got into art. I'd been out of it for over 30 years. I got in a little space at Front Street, Mike Elsall there gave to me for a while. It's probably 3 feet by 5 feet. And I sat in there and I painted for 2 months, and then one day it hit me, this isn't going to work because my DP&L bills do. So I've run businesses in the past, so I thought then, I've got to change my art to a business, and the art itself became my product. And that's when, I realized, I had to start networking. For me, first in person, to get to know the art community in Dayton, because at that time I didn't know it. And then while that was going on, social media. And both have been very helpful and very good to me.
Yes. I would say my first revelation, I was going to start a little further back, but I'm going to come a little closer to when we started our residency at what was then known as the Victoria Theater Association and now Dayton Live. I went to a poetry show, and I have been performing poetry here for several years. And when I got there, they said, we don't have any more spaces for you to get on the microphone. And I was so angry. I mean, I'm thinking, how do you not have room for me to perform? It was absurd. It was a lot of arrogance, and it was ridiculous, my whole disposition about it. But I had it, and I was so glad that I did, because I called an elder, and I was telling her how I'm home and I'm irritated, and I drove to this place and they were saying I can't perform or whatever. And she said, have you ever thought about just creating something, having your own experience for people to come to? And I said, no, no, I haven't. I said, I know folks, I have friends and folks I can reach out to. And from there, I began to communicate with other artists, and I took that anger and irritation, and I didn't go and spew that off and dump that on other people. I then decided to create a mission, take my organization and expand my vision, and just began to talk to people about it, began to share, what is it that I really want, and to flush that out. And from there, it was, I had connected with Culture Works, and it was just a powerful group of human beings who wanted to see urban creative arts happen in this region. And so my first initial connection to an audience was directly connected to me being turned away. But then when I realized that the story is so much bigger than that, and there can be more than one poetry experience here and done differently, but that is a process. And so for me, that moment where I thought I was just going to vent and cry and whine about something I didn't like turned into really the genesis of me deciding to talk and share and began to build a community that grew into an audience.
Thank you. I think one of the themes that we're noticing is just taking that pain and turning it into purpose. Everybody here has that story of stopping, you said, for 30 years, and then you said you were coming out of work and you just got written up. And then you had the experience of just preparing yourself for something that didn't happen, but taking those opportunities and creating something and birthing something out of it. So I think that's really important for those of us who are in spaces where we're not where we want to be, to understand that it's up to us to make a decision to evolve ourselves. So my next question for you guys would be, what gave you the confidence to believe, because Ace, you spoke to it a little bit, but to believe that you could create an audience and have a following?
Well, I feel like confidence is trained. It's something that if you do small incremental goals and you are able to achieve those small goals, it's like a snowball. A snowball can knock over a whole village if you roll it high enough off the mountain. And so I encourage people to set these small incremental goals so that you achieve it and you get that momentum and that self-belief. And so it started with, hey, can I make consistent videos every day? Then can I make consistent videos that are good every day? Then can I get this many followers, so on and so forth. So it isn't necessarily saying that you don't have these long-term goals, but you want to give yourself these small victories to be able to feel yourself a little bit and get that confidence, because you speak different when you have confidence. You sell things differently when you have confidence. You perform better when you're setting up funnels on your website, and so on and so forth. Your whiteboard sessions are a lot more convincing when you have confidence, but it starts with building that. And so we need to be in the technique of constantly setting those small goals so we can get that confidence within ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what he said. I know for myself, it started in childhood. My mom was really good to my sisters and I, and always talked to us and told us that if there's anything we wanted to do is to go do it. You know, we might not always be successful in what we wanted to do, but at least we gave it a try. So all through my adult life, that's what I did, and I've been involved with a lot of things most people aren't, and what my mom said always came back. And then it's also age, too, I think, is part of it, because you learn that just because you try something, you know, the world's not going to end if it doesn't work out. So, you know, I was, after being a caregiver for my parents, I had gotten back into software. I was designing websites for WordPress websites, and I had done like 4 of them. And I was sitting there, and I thought to myself, you know, if I got up from this seat and I fell over dead, what would I say to myself? I wish I would have. And it was, I wish I would have been an artist. So I finished that website. I went to Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and I just started practicing drawing like crazy. And then just one thing after that just opened up, and it's worked. I mean, I'm not wealthy by any means, but my bills get paid. I can take a road trip and a vacation or two, and being the artist is what I wanted to do. But it's knowing that by making a decision to do something, even if it's scary, there is always a why in the road where you can take another path if you have to, if things don't turn out, and typically they do.
It really is. Great feedback from both of you. I would say my first bout with confidence came as a forensic counselor for the sheriff of Lucas County. You know, working inside of a jail system, you have to know who you are. And people can smell a mile away when you are not confident. And so that was my first hit of needing to be confident. I would say another big hit of confidence came preparing to give my TEDx Dayton talk. when I realized that the only thing that was going to diminish my fear was preparation. When you are prepared, and on top of that, if you have on a nice outfit too, you know, it does help. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, you know, feeling good about what you have on. If you're fidgeting with your clothes, I don't care what you know. You just not. It's gonna kill a little bit of your confidence. But but nonetheless, you know, that preparation piece is so important. One thing I'll tell you about that and building an audience is that you have to give yourself time. And then lastly, I would say mentors, mission, and money, if you're talking about building an audience. You can be confident whatever your mission is, but create one. Start from somewhere. It's something that's going to be refined over and over again as you develop and come. You don't want mission creep, but you do want to define that when you're looking at your audience. You want to have mentors. You need to have people in your life that's going to tell you how to strengthen your business. If you're working in a particular business, try to get mentors who may be on a corporate level in that business, or who may be peers who are doing the work with you and can research and do those things as well. But you want peer mentors, and you do want mentors that are going to tell you that idea is horrible. You are going to waste your money. You know, there may be things that they know nothing about, but if there's some peer mentors who can support you with developing it, I think that's important. And another way to gain confidence, go ahead and spend your own money, lose it, and see how long you play that game.
Yes, and that's on period. So, Ace, I have followed some of what you've been doing, which is amazing. So one of the things I notice about your work is you seem to be extremely authentic. Like, you post from anywhere whenever you're feeling it. So can you talk about that? Because I know some people feel like you've always got to be on and everything has to be perfect. But in this world, how valuable in building your audience is authenticity for you?
Well, it's very important, because you think of content that goes viral. Like yesterday, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, I posted a piece of content for my card games. And it is something I chopped up, put it online, and that piece of content has outperformed content we've spent $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 creating. So,
can you pause for 1 second, because you said you didn't explain what I know what the cards are,
okay,
but they don't know.
So I have one of the companies I run is a dating card game company, and it's an extension of my brand. So it kind of falls in line with the motivational speaking and dating advice, so it went hand in hand. And so what I do on Instagram is I post videos for that said card game brand so that it doesn't have to heavily rely on me always pushing it. You know, you only got so much low-hanging fruit you can get. At some point, you want a conveyor belt to be able to get you customers. And so that's what I created with my Instagram page, which is completely different from my own tonight's conversation. And so what I was saying about that piece of content is, right now, in 5 days, it got about 700,000 views. It's been shared 1,000 different times. But on the piece of content is just a split, face-by-face conversation between two adults. No branding, no get your card games here. And that piece of content that took me 2 seconds to slice up on Premiere Pro has outperformed content I've spent thousands of dollars on, which tells you that the eye on social media is trained to native, organic content. I've done high quality camera slicing podcasts, but people don't draw to that. They draw more to when I just put my phone out and record, because it seems like you're just watching your friend. You can connect to that person. So while you do need balance, okay, you do need that balance, that high quality content, so that people can see that you about something. But as far as that engagement and that organicness, and then too, whenever the idea strikes you. So that's what I do. When the idea strikes me, I pull my camera out. I don't try to force it. I don't try to think about what I look like, though I do get my hair cut every week, because, you know, I do better videos when I'm cut. So that's why I think authenticity is important, because I'll tell you this, it's only so long you can pretend to be something you're not before people can see through that. And so as long as you yourself, you feel good about the message you put out, you know what I mean? So.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Sierra, and then I'm going to let Julie finish us out with the question.
I think you're not answering any questions. Are you on a panel with us today?
I am, but I'm moderating.
are so kind and a beautiful moderator. I think what Tony just shared is proof of what works. It is exactly where the world is right now. People being authentic, and he's yielding results from being authentic in every area of his life. It takes time to uncover who we are and what's going to work for us. You know, you may have to borrow when you look at jazz and different forms of art, and in any world, you know, per se, people borrow sometimes from other people until they can connect with who they authentically are. But as you are borrowing, you know, make sure make sure inside that, if you're looking at this person did it this way, I love the way she looked in that. I would love to wear my hair or have glasses like that, or I would love to connect with my audience in that way. I think it's very important that you do not in any way, shape, or form think that they fell at the top of the mountain. They worked very hard to climb and get there. That was a lot of failure processes that he just spoke about, where he spent thousands of dollars and it didn't yield what he wanted. Being authentic is something some of us are born with and can't get away with, and can't get away from. For myself, I've tried to get away from being an authentic urban human being. I love slang. I love profanity. I don't use it often. But there are some things I love to write and to share, but being my authentic self, interacting with human beings and not forcing things. If you want a partnership with, let's say, a bank, or let's take the Levitt Pavilion partnership that we had this summer outside. So there's 5,000 people there at a free concert. My organization is framing that event, working with the Levitt to present that to the community. There is a banker there who's supporting that event. When people see your work and see how you show up within your work, they can then support you as when they see your authenticity. But if it is not you showing up in your way, that is one path where someone sees you doing the work, and then they say, you know what, that's in alignment with my mission. That's in total alignment with our company's goals. Or someone calls and say, you know what, we have a $20,000 grant that we think your organization mission aligns with, and we would want for you to apply for that. I think that authenticity, you knowing your brand, you knowing who you want to be, because when you switch up and you're like this person one day, you sound like that person another day, you know, we all go through those changes, but please take the time just to get to know you. And that's exploring your process, exploring your community, exploring your likes and dislikes. I'm pretty sure in this generation, they say we switch jobs how many times? Or you work 90,000 every 2 years. That's crazy. My parents worked for what, 30 years at the same job? But I'm thinking, so they had the same audience. But you all who are, you know, growing and changing and doing the work and switching and going through all of these different transformations, I think it's important that you just hone in on what it is that you want, have a personal mission statement, a mission statement for your business, and I think you can build an audience from there, because people who are not interested in what you're selling, they're not looking for you or looking to connect with you. And it's just that simple. And they're not going to connect with you if you're not serving what it is that they want for their business. But you will find some really unlikely, amazing partnerships just by doing your work the way that you do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, being authentic is very important. I know my absolute favorite thing to paint are representational birds. I absolutely love birds. I do also like to paint with really bright colors. When I first got started in art, there were some people who, they were saying nobody's going to buy those things. You know, you have to paint abstract, or you have to do this. And of course, you are sitting there, and it's kind of like, well, I wonder if I really know what I'm doing. And so you do question yourself, but I stuck pretty much to what I like. Well, I stuck to what I like, but I did have to change some things to make sales. And that was if I saw something that was selling well, and it happened to be this really loose impressionist fruit series that I was doing at the beginning, I switched it up to do a lot of fruit because I'm trying to bring in, sales, but I also stuck to my birds. And over the past few years, I have moved, not from representational, but I've also put some impressionist birds and whatnot up. But I still did not paint or did not offer anything to anyone that I wasn't proud of, or that somebody said, oh, you need to paint like, this famous artist or whatever. I mean, I absolutely would never have done that. For my audience, I did have to change subjects and that from time to time, and I would recommend doing that. But being passionate about what you do, and when you're, in my case, when you're painting that way, you talk about it with people, and I think they really hear your story, they feel your emotions, and having a story with just about anything you want to sell, whether it's advice or paintings and stuff, really makes all the difference in the world. And that's what I've continued to do and will continue to do.
Thank you. For me, authenticity was difficult because I was transitioning from more of a rigid job. I used to be a school principal. And so I kind of lost them. I said, oh, yes, for 10 years, I was a school principal and really suppressed my art because I didn't know how to do both in the community that I served. I was very nervous. I live in my community. I see people at the grocery store. So Mrs. Charlton and Phillitia were two totally different people. And I used to have to go out of town to be Phillitia. So it took me a second to really figure out, as they've all talked about, what it really meant to me and to be brave enough to show up as myself. And now I've invested also. I also got coaches, and I also had focus groups for myself, and I've also tested my product, and I've tried out different things to see how am I showing up, and am I showing up in a way that I think that I am? Because I was kind of unsure. I knew I wanted to shed that, and so if you're transitioning your brand, it's okay to wrestle with your authenticity, and that's what I did. And so the other thing is be comfortable showing up how you want to. If somebody were to walk in here with a ball gown on and that's what they were on, do you? You got to be real comfortable with that because your version of authenticity might look completely different from someone else's. But like Sierra Leone said, people will be able to tell if it's not you at all. And so I just think that that's really important, being comfortable how you want to show up, wherever you want to show up in your own skin. So my next question, and I'm going to start with Ace, is what is the biggest reaction you've had from your audience that let you know that you were hitting your mark?
When they bought something. I mean, just to be real, at the end of the day, you have to be able to support yourself, support your dreams. And in order for me to be able to give the best content to people, I have to be able to have time to create that content. And as much as I love working at the hospital, nothing really dampens your creativity like, changing bedpans for 12 hours. And so what happened is when you start taking it to the next level where you're saying, okay, I do like likes, I do like shares, I do like DMs, but I also like money. And so that's when I really felt like this is something that had the ability to be something that had longevity. And I always encourage people at the same time that you're building your skills and your platform in order to get those likes, those comments, those shares in that audience, you also have to say, how can I capture data? How can I get emails? How can I get phone numbers? How can I get people to join a group? How can I have somebody join my app? So even if you don't have a product at that time, it is in the forefront because without that, the sustainability is not really there. So I would say that's when I felt like people really, really connect. When someone purchased a tour ticket, I knew I connected with them. When somebody bought a T-shirt or a book or a card game, that's when I knew, okay, I left my mark, okay? But now, on the flip side of it, I'm a little bougie when it comes to it because I've been doing it for so long. It used to be, you know, you do get those DMs that revitalize you. People be like, man, I was so touched by what you did. And I still love that. But I remember getting those and still being broke and not really being able to pay my bills and not really being able to have the things that I wanted. So while I get joy in that, I also get joy in being able to pay my mortgage.
That's very, very important. And I just want to add a little bit before Julie chimes in. I think that that's something that, as we talk about the financial piece of this, that's why it was really important for them to bring that track in. As artists, we're automatically inspired. We're emotional. We're like, we just want to save the world and we want everybody to be moved. But being moved and being broke is no longer okay. And so if we want to call ourselves artists and we want to be true business owners, we have to have product and we have to be prepared for the audience when the audience does come. So are you truly prepared when you build the audience to have that product? So I think that's really important. Thank you for sharing that. Julie?
Yeah, I realized it really was at my first art show, which really was maybe 3 or 4 months after I had gotten into artwork. I'd been painting what I liked, and I liked when I painted. But I had this one painting. It was a $500 painting, and that was by far, if that would have had sold, that was my big income. I mean, I was, doing really well. And some woman came up, and she really liked it. She was there with her husband, and they were going back and forth about it. And she turned to me, and she said, tell me the story behind this. And other than it was a black raven flying kind of really loosely painted. But other than I like black ravens, I really hadn't thought of a story. So I decided, and I'm introvert and, I don't share a lot of feelings, but I decided, okay, I'm going to let her know. So I told her about what the different colors meant to me, what the flight of the bird meant to me. I had a good story, and I even moved myself. But it was all true, but I hadn't ever described it or said it to anyone. And she turned around and she said, well, we'll take it. So I think it was at that time, I realized that I did have to share, do some storytelling, elevator speech, as they call it and whatnot, to get my work out there and to share with people. But again, getting back to being authentic, I really was. But I just found that's how I was able to have people come in to me as an artist and know what I feel, and then it helped me be able to share myself and then think harder before I started painting that this is really what that means, because they do all have meanings.
Thank you. How did you know, what was the reaction that you got from your audience?
Oh, yeah.
Your message
Okay.
connected?
Yes, I would say, first for me, I loved surveys because our audience was more in person. Building an online audience didn't come for us. For our production company, it didn't come initially with an online sort of energy with it. But for me, I really enjoy, as what Tony is describing as the DMs of the 21st century, was the surveys of the 20th century. And so the surveys and, creating a space to serve community, because what I found as our show was being produced was that people, not only the folks who were coming to see our show, which was diverse and filled with minorities, but the artists who were performing as well were all navigating mental health challenges and just what was happening in the world of art, as you described, of being starving, but you're getting a standing ovation, but you can't pay your bills, you know what I mean? And the funding and support is not there. And so for us, to be honest, I appreciated the community connections, the opportunity to serve, but being frank, when I walked off of the stage after our 10th season, I saw the video footage of me walking off stage and my head was down. I was tired, and we have been producing for 10 straight years, just sacrifice after sacrifice to create urban creative arts in a space for an audience to have an art form that they related to directly. And so as much as those aha moments came through being with people, through being there, watching them come into the show, eagerly stay until the end and have to be asked to leave, and having a few products here and there to sell, but not often, usually the artist products. I walked off that stage after our 10th season, and I said, I can't do this anymore. It wasn't enough to sustain the work. And maybe about 2 weeks after I walked off the stage, the executive director, Donna Collins, called me from the Arts Council and said, what are you doing May 16th of 2018? And I said, I'm doing nothing. What's up? What do you need? And she was like, would you like to attend the Governor's Awards? And I said, sure, no problem. We were planning to come anyway. And she was like, well, I'm calling to tell you you won. And I screamed so loud and so long, and every thank you, every applause, every donation, every sponsorship, it all came flooding back to me, right on the brink of thinking I was not doing the right thing anymore. I didn't have those memories, those 2 weeks of just thinking, what do we do next? Do we continue this journey? And our audience was very supportive. They were there for us to make sure that we created season subscriptions. They completed their surveys consistently to let us know what they enjoyed and did not like about the experience. Our community organizations who were there, the VTA, ensured that we were just maximizing the experience. The Human Race Theater was so supportive, but in all of that, it's a driving force within you to keep doing that work. And that light was dimming for me, and it wasn't until that moment when that happened that it was like everything my purpose it was like a defibrillator, to my purpose. And then from there, the journey just continued with developing partnerships, communities, and audiences in that regard. But I must say, I had my head down. I worked 80 hours a week. I worked for Wright State University as an academic advisor. And then from there, I had my head down and I did that work every single day. So 40 hours was for our arts business and 40 hours was for my job here in locally. And then it wasn't until 2016 or 17 that I decided to be a full-time entrepreneur. And then from there, began to build relationships on an even deeper level.
Thank you. For me, I wrote my play I produced it in 2018, and I was terrified. I was like, nobody's gonna come. That video, they're not gonna come. No, they're not. And I just kept ignoring myself, and I kept having rehearsal. I actually ran into Sierra, one of those humdrum days. She was like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, having a casting call, nobody's gonna come. And eventually they did come because I didn't give up. I let the feelings be what they were. I acknowledged them. I received support where I could. It was a moment. It was a whole moment where I could get it. But I kept trying. And I had casting calls, and I added more casting calls. And then people started telling one another about it, almost to the point where I couldn't even believe that I oversold my event on accident. That's what happens when you don't get the floor plans. And you pray people stop coming in because you don't want the fire marshals to come get you. But it worked out really, really well. But the idea is don't give up and don't listen to yourself. Just because you've never done something doesn't mean you can't do it. And so I couldn't believe. I think my moment was when I came out from just being this principal, dealing with the tornadoes, having this business, all kinds of crazy stuff, as we all have, and still going on with this play, deciding to move forward, and having 25 African-American people in a stage play at the Dayton Art Institute that sold out. And then I came out, and I was like, they got it. I was so scared that they weren't going to get it, but I trusted. I just let it go. I just let it do what it was going to do, to the point where it was just like, you just got to continue to trust yourself no matter how you feel. And even if there was just one person, if that person got it, they might invite the next 500 people to get it. So just keep showing up no matter how you feel. I think that was my lesson for knowing that I could connect to an audience. So Ace, I know you do a lot on social media. I'm going to ask everyone, how do you keep up with the trends, or do the trends relate in connecting to your audience? Because we got TikTok, Reels, Facebook Live, Instagram, YouTube. Like, I could go on and on. So how do you manage that at all, or do you?
Okay. So it's just about format. I create and repurpose content for every different format. So if it's a Facebook Live, that works better for engagement on Facebook. So I'll go live there, download the video, chop it up into a 3-minute IGTV, post it on my IG as a preview. Then I'll take the hottest 60 seconds, put it on TikTok, and then I'll upload it to YouTube. And then if it's really hot, I'll download the audio, put it to the audio stream program. So it's the same wheelhouse that you're chopping and repurposing multiple different ways. And that's the easiest way to do it, because right now I do not have a video assistant, because even if I did.
That did not sound easy.
Well, listen, look, you right. You are absolutely right. None of it is easy, it's taxing and time consuming, but when it becomes habitual, it is something that you do. And then you learn how to do it easier on yourself. And so that's what I do. I mean, I just take that piece of content and repurpose it, instead of trying to create something for all these different platforms. And then even when you start to know how to do it, now when you're talking to a production team that I do my card games with, now I can give them better directions. Like, listen, I need this in a 4x5, because I know that'll work for YouTube, IGTV, Facebook ads, et cetera, that landscape won't. You start to learn these different things as you start to do it.
Thank you. Julie?
Yeah, I did learn that after a while, that it's important just to repurpose what you have. And I use mostly Facebook, and I think it's an age thing because of my age and my followers and whatnot, because most of my sales comes from strangers on Facebook. So I do, when I'm doing any type of video or posting, it is first for Facebook, because I know that's where my sales are going to come from. And then I use that same thing on Instagram and now TikTok, even though I feel like they're all like 10-year-old boys watching me. But it does, getting followers and stuff. But and it's really important to do it frequently. I'd been traveling for just about 4 weeks, and I was out of the country, so I wasn't able to update things as much. And it's funny because I'm like trying to grow those comments and whatnot again, because people had a month where I just wasn't posting much. So definitely, repurposing and the frequency of posting is so important.
And I know it seems redundant, right? But anybody, I have my drink. When I go to a place, this is my drink. In the same way with your special preferences, social media is that same way. Certain people are Instagram people. Certain people are Facebook people. Certain people are TikTokers. And the thing about TikTok, I always say, is this is free. It's algorithmness right now. So you can post something on there and you have your best chance of going viral than anywhere else. I've made a lot of money off TikTok. Those kids buy card games. I don't know what else to say. So my point is, I just want everybody to understand the importance of saying that. Your preference may be, I like Facebook, but one of your audience members or somebody you can potentially connect with, and I know we call them followers, but I call them potential customers, maybe an Instagram person or a YouTube person. So taking that extra time just to slice something up may be the difference between you paying rent this month and you not paying rent this month.
I think what they've shared is effective and true. And sometimes you have to just recognize when you're in an area where you do not have those skills. And Yes, I do not have those skills. Um, we usually try to hire folks or most times have an intern um, that's taking this up now in school or someone who's doing this work. But what he just described as his normal is a very unique normal. You know, it is a skill. It makes me think about the gentleman whose daughter got kidnapped, and he said, "I have a unique set of skills, and I'm gonna find you." Do you hear me? And so I just want to tell you, I'm going to be the person who cannot give you those tips and give you the other tips. Don't lose yourself if you don't get likes. Don't fall apart if you feel the audience is not building as quickly and swiftly as you like. These things do take time. You know, you may go viral, like he said, from a video or two, but you know, it's a process. And I think if you apply what they put forth or team up with someone who has that skill, and maybe you can do the basic posting and chop it up, or for me, the key thing, let me be clear, is that we just have a content calendar. And so you work with someone. If you don't have the money to say, I want to hire someone long term to work with me day in and day out, team up with someone. Maybe you can trade services for a little bit. Develop yourself a content calendar where you're looking at the content at the beginning of the month or the 15th of the month, and you're prepared for that entire month to put that content out. And then you meet up with them again, or you meet up with them quarterly and you pay a fee. But if you don't know how to do it and you want that presence, team up with someone and get the support. And maybe your strength is in writing the content, but not posting the content. You know, maybe your strength is that you can capture the stuff, but you're not good at putting it together. But there's plenty of people that would want to do that work. Isn't that correct, Tony?
Yeah, all over the place. There's a lot of people. Social media.
You hire out as well? So yes, you have a few people who can connect you with folks who are doing that work that are here, but I mean, I commend you to keep shining bright.
Somebody, go ahead and clap. You can clap. But part of that, though, honestly, though, when you think about it, because when I'm interacting with you guys and learning more about your art and what you do, when you think about how Ace described it, that is why. Because that's part of his gift and his talent and his skill set. It's not osmosis. It's not like, it's just who he is. It's a part, and that's what's part of talking about authenticity, is being true to who you are. I've gotten large contracts off of free events just because I said yes and showed up. I create my flyer for if you talking to me, my name's gonna be on the flyer and I'm gonna say I'm featured. That's just what I do. I have somebody that does that for me because I know that I'm marketing myself, and the more people see me do things, the more they want to connect with me. So I'm advertising myself for free for a $5 Fiverr flyer, or I do have an assistant that I work with that helps create that. That's very inexpensive. So it's not a cost, it's being strategic, as she stated about that. But anything that I do, I'm asking, do I have permission to use your logo, especially if it's free? Can I share my information with your audience, especially if it's free? Will you give me a recommendation, a video recommendation, which I hadn't been asking for, but I advise you to ask for those video recommendations because people will do it. Just give me 20 seconds of what experience you had. So that's part of building as well, is making sure that if you're giving something, that you're being intentional on getting something back, and it doesn't cost a lot to ask for anything. So at this point, and knowing your worth and your value as artists outside of just the product and the service that you produce, the time that he's taking to put into this or that we take to create things, it is really important in terms of how we eat and how we get paid. So we have a few minutes left. I really want to open this up to the audience. If you have questions for the panel at this time. Yes. You said you interview people?
Well, the first thing is it doesn't have to be right the first time. You just got to create something, and that's what I tell everybody. The first thing I created was a book that I don't sell many of right now, and I never sold that much of in the first place. Second thing was shirts. It was just things that sort of made sense with my brand. So it would be affirmation shirts. I would take the videos that I made, transcribe them, hire an editor, then create a book from it, and then sell that. I always needed something to, as I'm creating this content. Like if I meet you and I'm talking about my business, what I do, you're gonna ask me for a business card, and I don't have a business card, then I can't monetize this interaction. The same is true. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it's interactions with thousands of people at the same time. And if you don't have anything there to offer, you'll find a lot of people will buy something from you even if it's crappy, because they want to support you so bad. But oftentimes we don't have a link in our bio. Oftentimes we don't have a website. And these are things we can create now for $29.99 a month, a Shopify account. It can be basic. You can just put your product there and it does the printing of the labels for you, where you got to get a label maker. You drop it off at the post office. So my point is, it doesn't have to be the first product. Create something. The easiest thing to do right now is create a shirt with a saying that you have. You can go to Greenleaf Printing down the street, get 20 shirts made, pre-order them, and send it to people. Something. I did 4 tours, 6 books, 30 shirts before I had a product that made me what is making me now. And the product that I created, the card game, I didn't think people would buy. Literally, I ordered 5,000 of them, and I know that sounds like a lot, but the audience I have is big. I ordered 5,000 because I'm like, eventually I'll sell them. And I sold 5,000 in a week. And I never thought it would. So the thing is, fail forward, keep trying new things. And I think that is the issue with a lot of entrepreneurs. We wait until the perfect idea instead of just the next one. Okay, so just whatever the next idea is, do that, because you never know what takes off for you.
Thank you. Anybody want to contribute to that? Okay. Question right here.
So when it comes to being someone who creates content as well as has an active website, how do you find the time to be able to upload content for not only people to connect people to your website, but for the website itself?
One more time. Listen, I'm going to save y'all a lot of time. Ads. Facebook ads. Facebook is my biggest employee. I spend probably $300,000 a month on Facebook ads. $300,000. But I make, I don't even want to talk about that. But yeah, that's another session. But it becomes your employee. So what you do is you're saying, when I used to work at the hospital, I used to make $21 an hour, but it took me 1 hour to make $27 because I could only be in one place at one time. However, with Facebook ads, it allowed me to do my pitches to people all over the world simultaneously. And my website becomes my employee as well. What I do is I create funnels on my website, upsells, downsells. What I do is create abandoned cart sequences through emails and text messages. What I do is I create retargeting through Facebook advertisement. So right now, while I'm talking to you, I bet if I pull out my phone, I've probably had 50 or 60 sales. Doing this and talking to you. And this is the product, that's why I said conveyor belt. What you want to do is you want to create a system that you can do one time and multiply it, and it's not dependent on you to be there, especially if you have an e-com store. Now, a lot of people don't have e-com stores, but if you get basics, and I'm trying to rush because I don't like to be long-winded, but basically what you have to do is say, how can I create something that I know can sell, and how can I convince people they need it? How can I write an ad copy? How can I write or do a video Facebook advertisement? Or even if I don't got the money for a video Facebook advertisement, how can I have a picture that stops people, gets them to read, click, and go to my website? And how can my website be persuasive? If you are able to do this and make a few dollars more than you spend that day, off of that interaction, and you multiply that by how much you got, how much money you got, then you make that profit for the day. And so my point is, I think a lot of, and again, I'm trying to go back to where I started. And when I started, if I had the knowledge I had now, it would be way easier. But it is a learning lesson. It's a curve that you have to learn. But my biggest takeaway is what things, because I didn't have money to pay people to do, what processes, what programs, what websites, what warehouse fulfillment centers could I employ to where it didn't take my time in order to fulfill. I didn't want to fulfill any orders anymore, so now I have that. Now it opens up more time. The website converts for me, so now I don't have to sell, et cetera, et cetera. And then now I don't have to go on if you go on my Instagram, you do not see me pitching my card games no more because my Facebook ads do. So now I don't feel like I have to keep, hey, buy my cards, buy my cards, buy my cards. So I guess, and to be non-long-winded, which I know I just did, when you get me talking about this is when I get going, because I love it. I love making money. But the biggest thing is systems. And if you think about the systems in the beginning and learn that process the same time you're learning content, I was never the best poet, never, and will never ever be. That's just not what I'm decent, serviceable, but I wasn't. But I said at the same time as I learned how to do poems that I want to learn how to sell tickets and I want to learn how to create products. And I divvied up my time in different places. And so my point is, at the beginning, you have to learn how to be multiple hatty because you're at that place where you don't have enough money to hire the help. So now you have to be the help. But then when you learn how to do it, then now you don't need the help, you know, so.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anybody want to add to that? Excellent. We'll have another question. I think one more, and then we'll be wrapped up.
Oh man. Okay, so man, these are good though. These are good. You should write these. This is really good. So, on your Shopify store, Shopify is what I would recommend because it's just for e-commerce. It's just a one-stop shop. You can get themes there, which is your website, what it looks like, and it's a plug and play. Okay, the apps that I use that have made me the most money, 20 or 30% of my sales come from an upsell called, I believe it's Zipify. It's Zipfy, Zipify, I believe, and that's an upsell, downsell. So you come to my website, one card game is $25. You click it. Then what I do is I give you 3 minutes to decide if you want to add this other one for 30% off. And then if you don't, it's a downsell. Matter of fact, I'll give you 50 because what I want to do is maximize that. So that's the first thing I use. The second thing I use is something called SMS bump. Text messages are super effective for shopping. SMS bump, B-U-M-P. It is super, super effective. Think about email open rates right now are through the trash. They probably 10 to 15%, even if you're really good and you trick them with a headline. But that SMS bump, the text message, you're talking about 80 to 90%. They're seeing it, they're clicking through. And you always stress urgency. So that's part of my abandoned cart sequence. So when they go to my website, they don't buy, you get that message 4 hours later like, oh my God, you forgot your item. And it works on people. And then Klaviyo. Klaviyo is the email system that I use. It integrates perfectly with Shopify, and that's the only reason I use it. I used to use MailChimp, but it doesn't integrate as well. You get those three things, it will help your funnels on your website because you're going to get, what, a 4% conversion rate on a website? So out of 100 people, 4 people going to buy. If you don't got those things, out of 100 people, 1 person might buy. And that extra 3 people, over the course of you ratioing that out, if you get 20,000 visitors a day, that's a substantial amount of jump in sales.
Thank you. I think the last thing as we wrap up, that's so important, is one of the things I'm getting from this is don't just build your audience, build your business. Build your brand and build your business. So I want to thank everybody for your time and your energy today for this panel, and I appreciate it.